Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. So, with the economy seemingly not so great lately, there's been a lot of talk about stimulus checks again, particularly tariff stimulus checks. So, I figured I'd do a video and update you all on what we may or may not expect. There's been an idea floated around about $2,000 per taxpayer, I'm assuming per taxpayer, stimulus checks based on tariff revenue that the United States is taking in. So let's go look at what we know so far. We'll look at a few different sources. Um, and at this point, I can't say whether or not this may happen, but so far, what I've found, so while a federal tariff stimulus check has not been officially approved, obviously, there's public discussion in a recent proposal from the Trump administration for a $2,000 tariff dividend for most Americans. It's important to note that the IRS has confirmed no new federal stimulus payments have been authorized. Of course, I mean, there wouldn't be. The government just reopened. But right now, the economy is, depending on what metric you look at, I would have thought like 10 days ago that the economy was doing pretty good, other than, the government shutdown. But we had a Fed interest rate cut that had basically no effect on the stock market at all. We had corporate tax cuts that were extended in the summer, yet no one's cutting any prices, which I think that should be borderline criminal. If you get a tax cut and you keep on raising prices, I think that should thoroughly be investigated. That's just my opinion. We got a comment here, never going to happen. Yeah, well, everybody has their own opinions, but I just think the economy is getting to a point here where, the market gave us a little bit of breathing room today, but things, especially now that the government's reopened, I think we're going to see a big number of jobs losses, and unemployment claims, especially with the shutdown. A lot of people were out of work and things like that. So I think the economy may need a jolt here pretty soon. So here's some other details. So the origin. President Trump floated the idea on Truth Social in November of this month, and it was reiterated by his press secretary. Now, I'm sure you all have seen a lot of stuff going around of like the memes of people's like bank accounts where it shows like, what they spend on OnlyFans, what they spend at the store, and then you see tariff stimulus check. Those are fake, of course, but they've sparked a lot of discussion about this. Funding source would be a dividend funded by revenue from new and existing tariffs. Target recipients, the proposal would exclude high-income people, though specific income thresholds have not been defined. Roadblocks. Economists have raised concerns, calling the plan deeply irresponsible and noting that the potential tariff revenue might not cover the cost. Legal challenges and the need for congressional authorization also pose significant hurdles. Other efforts. So, of course, in the beginning of the year, there was talk of a Doge stimulus, but unfortunately, I think that the Doge numbers are largely either fake or fabricated. So I doubt we'll see anything there. So state level payments, some states this month, including New York, Alaska, and California, are distributing their own relief payments to residents to help with the high cost of living. Why don't we just get like an inflation stimulus check? American Worker Rebate Act. Senator Hawley introduced a bill called the American Worker Rebate Act of 2025, which would provide rebates funded by tariff revenue to qualified Americans, but the bill has not advanced through Congress. The IRS has issued warnings about scammers attempting to exploit rumors of stimulus payments to steal personal information. So as always, be careful with stuff like that. Eligibility, it's probably under 100,000 or so. Here we go. Let's see. They've implied less than 100,000, which that's nothing these days. Think about this: 100,000 today was the equivalent of like 50,000 5 years ago, because the dollar literally has lost 50% of its value. So let's see. Let's go to this ABC News article. Okay, let's see. Let me switch over here. Share this tab instead. Okay, if you all like this, smash that like button. Greatly helps the algorithm. What does he say? The man doesn't even have the money for SNAP. No one knows where it is. Really? Did they lose that too? Okay, so it opened midway through the article here, so I need to scroll up. Let's see here. What to know about Trump's promise of $2,000 tariff dividend payments? President Trump over the weekend vowed to provide $2,000 per American to be distributed when he says was tariff revenue, 2,000 a person, not including high-income people. Treasury Secretary within hours cast doubt on the plan. Oh, and here's what they said. A tariff dividend may come in lots of forms. So they basically, and I read this earlier, they counted other things that have already been done, basically. The idea reminiscent of pandemic-era stimulus checks. I'll tell you all this. I would rather not have had the 3 stimulus checks and have lower inflation today. That would be a good trade-off. Or, in my opinion, the best stimulus check or the best stimulus plan would be no tax for an entire year. How much worse do you think it's going to get? I don't know. It's weird because 10 days ago, I would have told you we were in a bull market, but I can't even say anymore. I used to know things about such matters, but I guess my advanced equipment needs to be recalibrated. But yeah, I mean, we've got, a Bitcoin is in the tank. I don't know why, and I'm not a crypto expert, but I don't know why Bitcoin and the general economy move in the same direction. You would think between precious metals, crypto, and the general economy, you should think those should move in relatively different directions. That would just be my thought process, but what do I know? Let's see. What is a dividend? How about this? My dividend audience loves this. The term dividend typically describes a payout to individual shareholders funded by a company's profits. Hey, for YieldMax and Roundhill and RecShare investors and Granite Shares and all of the above, does that define what we're getting? That's an interesting segue. Let's read that again. A dividend typically describes a payout to individual shareholders funded by a company's profits. Are these funds profitable? I mean, look at Tesla, which I got out of. I was actually, funny thing, I was thinking about getting back in, but I don't think I will. I just don't think it's going to recover. If you've got the underlying pretty much at all-time highs and we're flat, all it's going to do is just go down further. So I'm going to find more stable dividends and invest in those going forward. So this proposal mirrors the 3 stimulus checks mailed to Americans during, or in my case, direct deposited during the pandemic, 2 of which were authorized by Trump. Those 3 totaled as much as $3,200. I got all of them, actually. Thankfully, they based it on 2019 income. And that year, I earned a paltry with my so-called bonus. I think I was definitely below the threshold. What did Trump say? Trump announced policy proposal in a brief message on social media. This is what he said. People that are against tariffs are fools. We are now the richest, most respected country in the world with almost no inflation. I got to tell you, I resent that notion that we're the richest country in the world. And I know we have a lot of assets, but we have a lot of debt as well. He says almost no inflation. So this is what's starting to bother me here. Not to get too political, people, but what's Nick Silver say here? Buenas noches. Wait, it's still early. Why do you say buenas noches? Or do you mean good night and welcome to the live stream? Maybe that's what you mean. But anyway, so I have a serious problem with this almost no inflation. Just go around, go to the store, go anywhere and look around. Now, I think inflation is a bit of I call it a hoax. It's a bit of a pandemic in and of itself, because basically you've got energy costs lower, but for some reason, like my electric company, they want to go up on their rates. And I think of all the causes that people go out and protest over, I think high prices, people should be out picketing over that. Just my personal opinion. I think inflation is a giant joke. You can look at things like Arizona iced tea is a great example. Since 1999, not a single price increase. They've been 99 cents a can since the year 1999. So, I think it's a lot of BS. I think it's a crock of crap, and it's really frustrating. I go to the store. I'll give you a good example. Cafe Bustelo, my favorite coffee. It was $3 a block not that long ago. It's like $8.29 a block. Granted, my store puts it BOGO, but still, even with the BOGO, that's like $4.15. That's still a huge increase. And not only that, but the other one, the Pilon that I like to drink, like those are all really expensive. And everything in the store is expensive. And it's been, and this is the problem I have, but like, because I had huge issues when Biden ignored inflation. He's like, oh, it doesn't exist. It's not there. Well, now Trump is doing the same thing. So, and it's going to be the same thing. We're just going to turn everything over again in 4 years. No one can seem to get inflation under control. But no matter who it is, it would piss me off when Biden would ignore it. And it pisses me off when Trump ignores it too. Don't act like inflation doesn't exist, because it keeps going. Every time I go to the store, it's higher. So welcome to Chuck. Welcome to Chad here. All the insane inflation from before is just baked in. Well, and the thing is, the politicians act like it didn't happen. Inflation, we've probably had 30% increases across the board, and they just act like that didn't happen. They just sit there behind their academic, um, their academic, what's the term I'm looking for? They sit up there, they pontificate from their academic, perch, I guess, and they're like, well, inflation's back to normal. The interest rate cuts, the interest rate policy by the Fed worked. I mean, I studied this stuff. I studied economics. I think that the whole idea of raising rates to combat inflation, I think it's a broken model. I think, we're living in the 1980s, and the 1980s were a long time ago, unfortunately. It didn't work. Interest rates, they raised them, and they really didn't stick to a strategy too long. They were too slow to raise rates. If you subscribe to the notion that raising rates helps combat inflation, an argument could be made it actually causes more inflation, because you've got higher mortgage rates, higher auto loans, higher credit cards. Like every amount of borrowing is higher when you raise rates. So you could make the argument that raising rates actually causes more inflation. But the whole idea that, this lowers inflation, I think it's debatable. I think it's a broken model. But anyway, for argument's sake, say you agree that it does fight inflation. Well, they waited too long to do it. They didn't stick to their guns long enough. Now they're cutting rates again. And it's just not a coherent strategy. And then this last rate cut did nothing for the stock market. So anyway, long rant about that one. But I disagree that we have almost no inflation. Record stock market, yeah, that's the major indexes are up. So he says a dividend of 2,000 will be paid to everyone. And unfortunately, a social media post is not a clear and concise and a cohesive strategy. Let's see, who would qualify? 75,000 was the adjusted gross income during they took 2019 basically, which I qualified for all three of those. Beyond those benchmarks, higher earners were eligible for smaller payments. Median income 83,000. Let's see. Yeah, Secretary Bessent kind of cast some doubt on it. May instead be rooted in tax cuts previously enshrined by the One Big Beautiful Bill. So that bill that was passed during the summer extended all these corporate tax cuts. I honestly think if corporations, I agree with the idea tax cuts do stimulate the economy, corporate tax cuts and all that. But if any corporations are going to get tax cuts, they should not increase prices on the consumers. I think there should be some tie or some quid pro quo that if you're going to get tax cuts, you shouldn't increase prices on consumers, because it's absolutely out of control. And it's like no one cares. You go around, it's like we're all just kind of floating around in space here. It's like no one cares. I'm looking around, everybody they whip out their credit cards, they're just paying it. It's like where's the outrage? I see all the stupid stuff that gets protested, but where's the outrage over inflation? I'm just looking around, I'm like, is this normal? Am I the only one that has a problem with this? Are we living in the twilight zone here? But anyway, so unlikely, I think if I had to make my own guess, it's unlikely that we actually see this. It would, if they did this on the 100,000 threshold, it would reach about 150 million Americans, amounting to roughly 300 billion in dividends. So that's good. If you're not happy with your dividends from your other funds, for the bulk of my audience, which is a dividend-based audience, maybe you'll get a tariff dividend, right? Now what I want to do here, I want to end on this note. I'm going to go to the debt clock here. And this will give you all some heart palpitations if you haven't had any already. There's a lot of numbers and a lot of moving parts here. What does it say? Getting the people to protest the stupid stuff instead is by design. Oh, I know. I mean, I don't doubt that some of these people are paid for sure. I think that's been proven, but I think for a cause, like some of the causes that I see get protested are just a joke. I think people should be outraged over, what's going on with everyday inflation, everyday price increases. Okay, so let me close this out. All right, so you all are about to see a lot of numbers here. Wow, one of them even has an exclamation mark by it. This is new. Every time I look at this site, I see something new. So debt per citizen, if you all haven't saved enough money yet, you all, if the debt was to be called, like we talk about, margin calls and all that, you all would owe per taxpayer $328,220. That's chump change, right? Now, there's an interesting note here. Per citizen, it's $111,000, but per taxpayer, it's $328,000 because not every taxpayer is a citizen. So keep that in mind. So, as a final verdict, is it likely or unlikely? Is it likely or unlikely that we're going to see one of these stimmy checks from tariffs? I think unlikely. So anyway, I will leave you all on that note. Thank you all for tuning in. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and join Discord, and we'll see you all in the next one. Take care. Bye.